looking at the amount of delay that person is spending with that time in their car. So as we were looking at 2005, which is what we're saying is the existing conditions, and then the 2035 future results, if you didn't do any improvements, we start seeing some significant jumps in that, that time that people are spending in their car and the delay, and really the percent of that roadway that is congested. Looking through, I don't know if this has a laser pointer. Under the 2005 conditions, we were looking at about the percent of the roadways that were congested, about 11%. But that starts jumping up into the 50 and 60%. More roads are getting congested with all those people coming in and all that additional traffic on the road. Vehicle hours of travel, where I'm looking at 0.8 is almost an hour, and 0.9 is about an hour of time per person that they're spending in their cars a day. Probably going to work and then home during that time. Starts jumping up into the 1.5 hours per day. So you start adding that more time that people are spending in their car, and you start translating that into the delay. This is the big number that we start looking at as we're looking at the mobility in the networks. If you start seeing that you're spending more than 50% of your time in delay, it's probably a great concern for all you people going to and from work. This just translates the difference from 2035, where you really start seeing those increases, 35% jump in that amount of time you're spending in delay. That goes along with the number of people that are growing in both counties. We were looking at, in 2005, roughly about 330 people in the 2-county MPO area. That number jumps up to over 700,000. So with all those people and all that traffic, these are the conditions that we're starting to see. Based on the map, these are the congested roadways with adopted capacities. Each county and each city has a concurrency management system where they said, this is the capacity of the roadway that we're willing to accept. We want to try to maintain that so people can go back and forth. In 2035, like Kate was saying, red and purple is bad. That means you're starting to get over 100% of the capacity, or if not, even purple is even higher than that, over 120%. Then as we started going forward, we wanted to look at, okay, what if your policies were a little bit different? If you extended the capacity a little bit more and more of the physical characteristics of the roadway, and to see how really the roadways were flowing. If I toggle back and forth, you can start seeing, starting off in the South County and some areas up in the North County, some of those roads start dropping off as you start, ignoring the policies and looking at really the roadway physical characteristics. Then we've highlighted in the dark black colors, which is another level of modeling analysis, where we might be seeing some excessive delays or speed decreases. Not necessarily saying that you're going to be in stop conditions or it's really bad, but where are we looking at more of these priorities as we start going through that big expansive population from 2005 to 2035? Where can we look at the priority projects or the projects that we should start looking for? Drilling down into the North County, this is just zoomed in as we started. The other map was a little bit larger. You can start seeing the Turnpike and I-75, start looking at severely congested conditions with large amounts of delay. And then compared to some of the priority projects, right here we don't see that the Turnpike's in there as the priority, but you start seeing that 75 was one of the priorities that the MPO was looking at in the last long-range plan and some of their other planning. And comparing those two, what we're going to start seeing is how these priority projects start affecting some of the roadways with this first alternative, and confirming with everybody here if these are still the priorities, if they're lined up with the congestion. Same thing for East County. You start seeing 44th, but then how does that congestion line up with the Wekiva Parkway as it goes through? Will we start seeing some of that congestion go down or shift into traffic with some of these improvements in? So the congestion that you're going to be seeing on the maps, though, looks pretty bad. It's not showing any of the projects that might be farther than the 2014 planning horizon or anything else that are in the top priorities. And we've done the same for South County as we started going forward and how they line up with the priorities. I'll turn it over to Kate, and she's going to talk about the discussion.